evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is John here from First Response Pest Control. I'm here with my good colleague, good friend, Jeff. And we've got something we want to talk about you. No, we don't want to talk about you guys. We want to talk with you guys.
Yes.
We're going to talk because obviously there's a lot going on, Jeff, isn't there? Especially down in Los Angeles, and our heart is going out for our people there that are going through such a traumatic time.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, they're not totally out of the woods yet.
No.
The winds definitely aren't helping anyone. And we get these winds. I mean, these Santa Ana winds blow, and, that's normal. And we get fires, and that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
But I mean, the
But this
situation
one,
is
though,
bad because this one's gargantuan. This one's really out of hand. It's a doozy. I mean, so many
my heart
homes,
goes out to them.
so many
My heart goes
people.
out to them.
Yeah, it really same here. It's and beautiful. I mean, beautiful areas. I don't know if you've ever been through the Palisades. I used
have,
to.
yeah. Years ago, I went through the Palisades. I was down in Orange County. I went into LA. I went through the Palisades. I went,
Oh my
round
God.
about all those areas. And beautiful,
So
beautiful
how
area.
beautiful that area looked. I
Yeah.
used to run out there many years ago.
Wow.
And it was a great route. Oh my gosh, that was one of those dream routes, right by the
Yeah.
coast. Weather was always good. There's plenty to do. There's because you get a lot of coastal pests and everything. But beautiful area, and it's just so sad to see what's gone on there.
And it's just, I mean, I watched that. I don't know if you've been following on. Like I have. I've been watching, keep my eye on Fox News and stuff like that. And I watched an interview with a young gentleman who had obviously built up his life there, his family there. He'd been growing there all his life. And I'd seen the guy break down in tears and totally break down.
Yeah.
And the shock that they've had, they've lost absolutely everything. And that's something
so
to think about,
devastating.
ladies and gentlemen. When you're moaning about that you've got a draft coming through your house, or you've got something, that is maybe not, your coffee's cold from Starbucks. Just think about these guys, what they're going through, what's
I tell
happening.
you. Yeah.
Puts it into perspective. And here's the other thing that we need to put into perspective, which is kind of jumping into our world. Because, and this is why we wanted to jump on today, is because we don't think about pest control when it comes to disasters. Like, for instance, we have hurricanes, we have tornadoes, we have fires, even famine. We have all sorts of natural disasters, even disasters that have caused toxic spillouts and floods and everything else.
Yeah.
That does create a potential problem in the pest control world.
Yeah. The one thing I've seen that's been a common thread, for as long as I've been doing this, when things are great, complacency, poor trash management can bring you a slew of pest issues. Because things are good, and we'll just set the bags out there by the dumpster area. We'll be fine. Then they come back and things are thrown everywhere, and some critters gotten into it, or there's a million ants all over it. And oh no, wow, I didn't expect this, and but yeah, it's even more so when you've displaced so much wildlife, which the insects and the rodents really fall into that category of wildlife. They say, okay, well, it's time to migrate out of here. And where do they head to? They head to other areas where they can find shelter, where they can find food. And of course, those areas are the areas not touched by the fire, where the rest of us are at. And so, we hear about it, we see it firsthand, where somebody says, wow, there's been a major uptick in pest activity. So, yeah, well, I mean, those fires nearby drove a lot of critters out of that area, and they had to go somewhere. Now here we're dealing with them.
And that's what I see. I mean, obviously, the Argentine ants is massive, the biggest colony in the world in that area. When you think about how those fires or any other disaster has displaced that ecosystem.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as well as I do. I mean, ants just migrate anyway. They do.
They're always branching out. They're always searching for new areas, making new homes in different places, and that's. I mean, you mentioned the Argentines. They've got such an interconnected web of tunnels,
massive,
everywhere. So For them, it's just a, okay, we're going on a hike through our tunnel system, and
it's
now
another
you've
day at
got a
the office.
concentration everywhere, that you didn't
Yeah.
have there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's another day at the office. It's crazy. But so that, I
Yeah.
mean, that's one thing that I think everybody in our area should be looking toward as well, or looking out for, because it's not going to be long before we see the uptick in pests. Because you've got an area. I mean, okay, we're an hour away, 45 minutes to an hour, a good hour away from where it is. But that in terms of
Yep.
distance in relation to migratory insects and pests that would be pushed out the area, there is a high
Mhm.
chance they could come towards Lancaster.
Oh, absolutely. Within days, I mean, of course, we're going to see an uptick in Santa Clarita first as the crow flies. But as you
Yeah,
get going up that hill, people in, Agua Dulce, Acton, then you get into Palmdale, then Lancaster. Um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if there's an uptick. And then, of course, it goes out like a ripple. So, things
yeah,
south of LA, like Orange County, they're probably going to get, an uptick as well. Well, we don't cover Orange County, but I do know a couple of people that live out that way. And I told them, hey, heads up. You're probably going to get a lot more activity because there's so many critters being displaced from these fires. And they've got to
yeah,
go somewhere, and they're going to survive. That's what they do best. So, they're going to flee the area. They're going to set up residence in a whole new place, and that's what the bugs do. That's what the mice and rats do. That's how they survive. They say, oh, it's not good to stay here, so we'll just move over
move
the
on.
hill. Hmm.
And interestingly, a lot of these animals, a lot of these insects, a lot of the world of nature already knows kind of what's happening before it happened. They've got this kind of psychic sense. Now,
Yes.
excuse me. Have you seen? I mean, it might be too early to identify now, but have you seen any particular uptick in any particular pest recently because of the fires?
Well, yeah, it's funny you mention that. It just turned really cold, and I mean, throughout December, I joked with a few of my clients that I saw. They were
Mm,
outside doing outdoor activities in the middle of the day, and I said, gosh, you'd almost think it was a spring or even an early summer day. It doesn't feel much like December, and that was through pretty much the whole month, right up into and through the holidays. We were surprised at how we would get all four seasons in the course of one day. But in
God,
the last,
yeah,
I don't want to say 3 or 4 days, we've noticed a real, I mean, it feels like January out there now, which
yeah.
it is, and it finally feels it. Today was, temps in the 40s and a real chilling wind. And I've noticed a few people are starting to, call about noises they're hearing in their attic, or
Hmm.
they've found evidence of rodents that got inside their homes.
And I've noticed, even though I've noticed as well that we're having a lot more people reaching out to us, and about rodents that they're having that's unusual. So it does seem that they're starting to get displaced.
They really are, yeah, and I think they're moving along a lot quicker. And I think I want to say day two, maybe, yeah, probably second, third day of the fires, we could see a little bit of the smoke out our way. We could smell
Right.
it in the air.
Mm.
And I think that was the one nearest us that was kind of in the hills beside, Santa Clarita and a little bit north of there, which that
Yes.
one, it seems they've got contained and under control. But the ones further south, we didn't really. I would say if we were getting anything, it may not have been from those, just based on the way the wind blows. But and that would be the ones around the Palisades, the Hollywood Hills. The smaller fire I know that was out by Burbank, Studio City. Those were pretty bad, but I think those are looking better at this point. But I know that the original Palisades fire that started, that one's still a monster. It's still very much a task. One of the folks that we're servicing on a regular basis now for 8 years. I just got an email from him. He's busy. He's a firefighter, so he's real busy with this right now. But he said even though he won't be there tomorrow, go ahead and do our thing as usual, just to make sure we latch the gate so his dog doesn't, run out and take off down the street. He said he can always get him back, but it's better not to chase him down. I said, you know what, I agree. I sent him an email back, said no problem. We'll make sure the gate's good and secure. Stay safe out there, But and we've got a lot of that. We got first responders of all sorts that we have on service. Some of them are in the fire department. Some of them are EMS.
They're busy just now.
And they're very busy. Very, very busy.
I know, and also I think it's important to note that a lot of people think, well, if the wind is coming from a different direction, it means the pests are going to follow the wind. But that's not quite the case.
Not always
the pests
the case.
are going to go where they can survive.
That's it. It's always about survival for these pests, and that's really, we know this because of what we do. And, our whole job is to really break the cycle and disrupt the cycle, using the tools available to us to do so. Sometimes that's chemical. Sometimes that's, a physical blockade or barrier. There's so many different tools in our arsenal. But we also know enough about these creatures to know they are built for survival, and they can withstand quite a bit of the elements, and they move, very proactively, so like you said, they kind of know, they smell that smoke, and if the fire's close, they can tell. If it's far, they can tell. But they make moves accordingly to get out of that zone. And it's almost, I don't know if it's instinctual. I don't know if it's an intelligence that they possess, if it's, it's been argued both ways, but they know, okay, let's get out of the burn zone. Let's get out of the area that's most likely to have a problem, and let's go over here where everything seems pretty calm. And where's that going to be? Well, that could be your neighborhood, and you get an uptick.
Also, you said something earlier which I think is brilliant. We talk about people get forgetful, they get complacent, and they're the weather's changed, maybe cooler. They think they're not getting best, but I mean, if you've listened to any other episodes, if you haven't, why not? Because they're great. Just go and check them out. We talked about the weather and how cold, winter. Actually, the pests still exist. They overwinter and they're still there. But when they're displaced by a flood, by a fire, by a hurricane, by anything, they're going to get pushed into survival mode, and they're going to go there. And of course, if you're complacent, a restaurant is complacent, which happens, and it can be the management.
It does.
Or a home dweller. This is what it's almost like feeding time at the zoo. They let them know, well, it's.
Oh yes, and the word.
This is the place.
Fast.
This is the party here.
Yeah, and it's amazing how they just sort of know, however they communicate. Ants with pheromones. I think other creatures also with pheromones, but the word travels so fast that like you said, hey, we got free food over here, we've got great shelter over there. Good case in point example. A few years back, we had somebody been living in the house 20 years. We did a rodent inspection, found deficiencies on the structure. He says, I don't understand. I've been here 20 years, never had a problem. What may have it been that, what could possibly have changed? And I said, well, we built your whole neighborhood 20 years ago, and all that over there was wide open field, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, when did they start grading that? He said, about 3 months ago. And I said, that's going to be a whole new subdivision, yes? And he goes, yeah, oh yeah, they're developing all of that. And I said, right, but for 20 years, it was an empty field. I said, they had so many critters living in that empty field. As soon as they started to grade it and get it ready to put, streets and houses. Right. Where did the pests go? Well, they came over to your neighborhood because it's not going anywhere. And they found these openings on your house. He goes, I mean, gosh, I guess I've dodged a bullet for 20 years. I said, essentially you did. I said, these openings that we found, that we took photos of, that we aimed to block off, these were from the original build. These aren't modifications of any sort, but, they just left these open. This happens sometimes. Well, needless to say, on that street, we did 4 rodent projects, but we saw 3 other pest control companies doing other houses there too. So I imagine all of these houses being designed the same, had the same flaws and the same openings that were allowing rodents in.
Absolutely.
And the only thing that changed is they started grading the approximately 20-acre
That's the
field
thing. It's not just
nearby.
disasters. It's not just
Yeah,
disasters. It's construction, and there's so much construction going on because
a lot of
there's not
construction.
enough. There's not enough housing for people. But
That's
they
true.
seem to forget about this. You know, whether it's a disaster or whether it's a construction area, and in effect, to nature, a construction area is a disaster zone because
It really
literally
is.
we've
Yeah.
moved in to their because it's their place, it's their land, it's their
It's
destroyed
true.
it because we're going to build on it. I mean,
Right.
it's fair point. They're
We
going to
take all the
move.
foliage, we flatten out the
Yeah.
soil, we compact it so that the foundation's set right. But yeah, I mean, they were there, and then we came along and flattened it out and started building on it. So of course, yeah, it's a disaster to those creatures that live there. As soon as they break ground, it's okay, all hands on deck. Let's get out of here because they're going to flatten this whole zone, and we're going to get flattened with it. So time to move on.
No, let me ask you about this because obviously the fires that are happening at the moment, again, anybody knows anybody, I've got people friends of mine that live close there, and the fires are devastating and really, land has disappeared, houses. It is catastrophic, and I don't want to make it any less or anything. I don't want to seem flippant or anything about it. But that one thing we do need to understand is that there are going to be potential pest factors that happen. My interest is that do you feel then, Jeff, that there's possibility of maybe dangers such as hornets and bees, wasps, stinging insects? That yes, there'll be some that have died and perished in those fires, but there's going to be a lot that have flown and migrated. And even though we have cold spells, we also have interspersed. My teeth are falling out. Hot weather that comes in as well. That's good
true.
enough for hornets and things to survive. So, do you think we're
We've
going to see an
gotten
uptick in
plenty of
hornet?
sunshine, as is the norm here.
Yeah.
And like I said, even in December, middle of the day, there were a few different days in December where we hit the low 70s, and that's plenty warm and sunny enough for them to be active. So, it's funny you mentioned that because as a result, I found out there in the field, that weren't there, in November or maybe even last month, December. And it's just been so far since the new year began. I found a few wasp nests, and I'm like, wow, here we go. Now one thing I noticed last year was they started in April. We usually don't see them pick up till about May, historically speaking. So things kind of change. And if I remember when I was a kid, gosh, in the late 80s, it was, God, we were in the 80s on Christmas Day. And it was a great day because I got a lot of outside toys to play with. So the weather was beautiful outside. It wasn't cold and wintry. And so I got to go outside and play with all the outside toys, brand new ball, brand new bike, perfect weather for that sunny 80 some odd degrees. Great for when you're a kid. You're like, oh, I don't have to wait for it to warm up. It's beautiful today, so that worked out just phenomenally well. And so we get that here, where we, historically speaking, we get more sunshine, more of the year. And, even though today was cold, it was windy. I mean, it felt wintry today. Who's to say, by the end of this week that it isn't in the 70s, it isn't in the 80s even. I mean, it's possible.
And that's my point, is that the weather changes, and especially because we've had a disaster like the fires recently, there are going to be potential movements in hornets, wasps, bees.
Oh yes,
that are going to, and so I think we would want to warn our customers and warn people out there that to be vigilant now.
Right, be vigilant.
Because of the fire.
If you see something going on, it never hurts to call. Good case in point example. More often than not, I get the call. There's a basketball-sized cluster of bees hanging from a tree branch in my front yard. I say, well, let's see what they do over the next 24 hours. And then I store their number. I tell them, give us a call in the morning, tell us what you see. Most times they call back. Sometimes we call them and say, hey, just wanted to check in with you. Are the bees still an issue? Well, no, they went away. About 6 hours later, they were gone. Said, okay, good. those are bees we didn't have to, interact with, and they
because
can
they're
go on and find
migrating.
a home. But they're migrating, and that's what I said. The colony's probably on the move. They're looking for a new place, a suitable place. I said that tree branch really isn't it. They're too
That's it, and
exposed.
that's what happens in disasters. This is what happens
Yeah.
in natural disasters and
Yep.
things like fires, and which obviously sometimes are not natural, as due to man's
That's true. I
ignorance
mean,
and
sometimes people set them, sometimes it's
yeah,
accidental, sometimes
exactly.
it's on purpose. I mean, I understand if somebody had a hibachi grill and the thing fell over and oh my gosh, I never meant for this to happen. I get it. People have accidents, it happens. But then if somebody's out there intentionally setting it, I hope they're caught. I hope they're dealt with. Because I mean, the damage done and not just to property, which is bad enough, but I mean, people have lost their lives too. And so, even if it's an accidental thing, you say to yourself, "Gosh, I hope they're more mindful." People in general, and everybody learns from this. That if it's a really windy day, maybe don't do anything that could cause a spark because it's high wind, low humidity. I mean, gosh, through the summer we had some decent humidity, and therefore we didn't have a lot of fire activity. But this winter's been very, very dry. I mean, very low humidity. When this LA fire hit, I think we were under 1% humidity that day.
Wow. And
Half a percent
that's just
humidity.
a perfect storm. I mean, it really
Right.
is.
It just becomes tinder at that point and it just goes up like a Roman candle. So I mean, even if it was accidental, a spark from ignition, a spark, somebody's barbecue, malfunction, got out of hand, that's tragic enough. But again, it wasn't intentional.
No.
So I've been watching and following the news a little bit like you, and they said they got some people that maybe set these things intentionally. And gosh, if they did, first off, why? I don't understand, why anybody would do a thing like that. But also, I hope they're dealt with and receive a stiff penalty because,
Absolutely.
to go out and intentionally, knowing the damage that can be. I mean, this is bad, very
And
bad.
it just look at how they thought they were getting to the end of it, and then you had the Santa Ana winds coming in
Oh
that have
man, and that just
totally
made it
changed
so
it
much
and
worse.
made it
Yeah.
a massive risk as well. And this is what we mean, ladies and gentlemen, is that whilst everything is horrible to see what people are going through, you have to be aware. You guys that are safe and out of the areas that you possibly may be facing a lot more pest activity, and that's just
Oh
something
yeah.
to be aware of. And let's talk about, Jeff, the kind of signs that they should be looking for the type
So
of pets.
I'm glad
Maybe
you
maybe
mentioned
some
that.
rodents and some
Part of this ripple effect, is going to be
yeah.
that
Let's
if
yeah let's
you're
give
gonna
them the signs that
see
they should know.
more activity. You're gonna notice things, happening, things on the move. Especially if you're in an area nearby, the nearer you are to this, the more that you're gonna see more soon, than you will if you're further out. But it ripples, like I said, so they're gonna make their way out and around, these areas and flee the scene. So you're gonna be, noticing, especially with the insects, you're gonna see more live insects, more dead insects. But with the rodents, it's always the same thing. If you're being woke up by sounds above your ceiling in the middle of the night, that
Yeah,
could be a sign. If you're hearing something that sounds like it's trapped inside one of your wall voids, trying to dig its way out, that's a sign. And then of course the classics, that I always love. If there's any kind of leak, in your plumbing, if there's,
yeah.
something stops working electrically and you call the electrician out, something stops working with your heating or air, and you call the heating and air people out, and they notice something, they'll usually alert everybody that they see, hey, these wires weren't cut, they were chewed through, or hey,
Rodents, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we found these droppings up there. They'll give them a picture, and then we usually get the call, and they go, "Hey, my electrician, or hey, my heating and air guy, he gave me a picture. Do you want to see?" Yes, absolutely. The more info we have, the better. Yep, those do look like rat droppings, and those were okay. Yeah, that looks like the work of rats. So he's not wrong. He spliced the wire, so your appliance is working at the moment, or your switch is working, or your outlet's working. That's good. But let's solve the problem so you don't have to have that electrician or that heating guy back out to fix the same wires from being chewed all over again. So we get in. That's where we come in. We want to block all the openings. We want to
Yeah.
do our part to create barriers so they have to stay out of that structure. We've gotten a couple of calls in the last week from two different people who asked us, is there anything we can do to rodent proof a car? Not really. But both of these people had the same issue. They hadn't started the car in a while, sat in the driveway. Garage is full. Everybody's got a full garage, right? So what happens?
I mean, let's face it. The pests are going to look for what are they looking for? The same as what we as humans look for: food, shelter, and water.
They want shelter, they want water, they want food, and a nice warm engine bay. Even on a car that is being driven, that engine stays warm for a while. So it's cold outside. They get up underneath the car, they feel the warmth, then they climb up the wheel well and they get into the engine bay. Well, if there's wires in there, which that all the vehicles have wires.
I know, and it's not just rodents. I mean, you've got snakes and you've got various other critters that go in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The one that I've always learned to watch out for is, sometimes outdoor cats will get up in the wheel well because it's warm.
Yeah.
And it's shielded from the elements. And then as soon as you start up the car, you see them scurry away. But or even when you hit the button to unlock it and the horn honks, you see a cat scurry out. But like you said, snakes, lot of things that are just considered wildlife could be in there. But both of these folks, rats had chewed the wires on their cars.
And you've also got to think about with a disaster like the fires that it's displaced everything. It's not just about the ash that everything has been dropping down. I mean, you've also got probably sewer systems that have been damaged now. There's been leaks, and then you've got perhaps an opening because of the disaster where rats are getting in and traveling up a different area and traveling into different areas as well. So, and then of course, while we're talking about rats as well, we mustn't forget that ants, they're going to recolonize and they're going to colonize toward you. You might start to see, sparrow ants and carpenter ants and various, especially
and out of nowhere it'll seem, just like we've seen so many times in the past when somebody started a construction project, when somebody, when it was too windy a day, we had real dry weather and then it rained out of nowhere. And, it's always the same thing. Wow, these ants came out of nowhere. No, they were here and, something moved them, something displaced them. Something broke their cycle, as it were, so they had to adapt. And now here they are in your kitchen, or here they are in your bathroom, but that's okay because we have ways of combating that. Or with the case, like you said, of the rats, here they are living in your attic. And the attic is bad enough, but it's not the worst case scenario. A couple of people we've talked to over the last 2-3 months, they've had them inside their house. And one of them in particular, we went and looked at their place, and their attic was clean and clear. There were no openings, save for one. They had the pet door. They didn't put the guard in at night, and that let itself right in, and it led right into the kitchen. So when they came down to get their morning coffee, of course, the fruit bowl on the end of their counter, the little furry friend that they had just made, unbeknownst to them, was helping himself to their apples and took a big old bite out of it and was just, thanks for the fruit bowl, guys. But then they locked eyes and the thing went right up underneath the cabinets and scurried and shot like a bullet right out the pet door. So they said, "What can we do?" I said, "Well, sounds to me like that one got away. We can set down some glue boards and mechanical traps and kind of keep them out of the way of the pets so nobody gets stuck or snapped." I said, "But start putting the guard in the pet door at night." Well, it turns out in their case that must have been the only one. After a week of the traps sitting there, not a single dropping, none of the fruit in the fruit bowl chewed on. The only difference is they started putting that guard in that dog door at night, and now the creatures aren't coming in and helping themselves to their fruit.
Well, let's before we finish off, let's kind of recap what we're saying to people out there is that we want you guys to be more vigilant because there's a lot of pests are going to be displaced and they may be heading towards your business or towards your home. And Jeff has mentioned things that you need to look out for, and scurrying, noises, trails, drop-ins, that kind of thing. Goes the same with ants and looking for them, the signs of these ants. You're going to see them as well, but you're definitely, if it's carpenter ants, you're going to see signs of them as well. And
yes,
you're going to have cockroaches, and that's a big problem. They're
Oh, yeah.
survivors. I mean, they say as well, don't they? I mean, we wrote an article on this, but cockroaches, they reckon, will survive a nuclear holocaust.
Right, far better than we would, and I mean that's saying a lot, So I mean these guys really are built for survival.
They are built for survival, and so don't be surprised, guys, that whilst you may be distant from the disaster that's happening, and I'm not just talking about just what's the terrible tragedy in Los Angeles. I'm also talking about general disasters. There's many that we got mudslides in California that come down from the side that displaces pests as well. But this is a doozy. In Jeff's own words, this is a doozy. This one, and this you might possibly see cockroaches. You might possibly see an uptick in them. So you need to be aware and be ready. The minute that you see any signs of any pest activity, then give us a call because we need to deal with it fast.
That's right. Absolutely. And I mean, just be mindful too. If there's a gap under that door, if that something doesn't close or seal off properly. I mean, maybe if you've been aware of it for a while, now might be a good time to get that caulking gun out. That might be a good time to replace that weather stripping, or be a little proactive because they really come in waves, and this is going to send out a ripple. For sure.
It is. And also remember, ladies and gentlemen, that it's as Jeff is saying about checking your home and checking for entry points. Remember that rats, rodents, they can eat through things that you would not believe.
Oh, yeah. Chewing through rubber, easy for them. Easy.
Concrete,
wood. Yeah. I mean, they've gotten through, stucco. They've gotten through, lumber. I mean, if they're determined, and sometimes they will dig their way and chew their way through a lot of different things. I mean, one of the things we use, just about anything. One of the things we use in rodent proofing is galvanized mesh, but we know if they really wanted to, they could get
they're going to get through it because they could do.
Yeah, it take a lot of work.
And, and let's face it, they're very intelligent.
Oh, yes, extremely.
Right? And so are ants. Ants are very intelligent. You can't, if a pest is going to be dislodged because of a disaster, there's an element of intelligence around them. They're survivors. They know how to. They can think ahead of the game. So you have got to be ahead of the game. You've got to be 10 steps ahead and prepare for this. So even if you don't have pests now, what's the harm? What's the harm in actually being able to start your pest control now? And we've got something amazing to tell you guys, is that we have developed, you are for new customers only. If you want to join before the season starts, you can join us for a discounted rate for your regular pest control, and you can even decide to take it on different plans: a 3-month, a 6-month, a 12-month, or an 18-month.
That's right. That's right.
Be aware, and because we want to make it easy. Yeah, exactly. We want to make it easy for everybody. Don't just think you can have 3 months and disappear and then obviously come back and then you've got problems. But this is so that we can, because some people, with the changes and things that are going on and all the disasters and even the economy, we want to try and make it easy for everybody. So you can come 3 months, you can come 6 months, you can come 12 months, come 18 months. Obviously, if you sign up with us for 18 months, then you're going to get the best deal possible. Go on.
Best deal possible.
Yeah, and 3 months is going to be a little bit more expensive, but then you're not tied down to anything. So be aware, guys. This is the time now to start your pest control rather than waiting and being reactive. Let's be proactive and get going. Let's be proactive and start control. And if you're listening out there and you know someone who's potentially needing that help, then refer them to us. Refer them. Let us help them.
Absolutely. And I've been telling people left and right, that I talk to, really the goal that we have is to offer that stability, You know, through all of the cyclical ups and downs that we get weather-wise, but then when things like this happen, that stability, but also, you know, have it meet at that crux on affordability as well. And I think we've really come up with a good, you know, a formula for the best of both worlds, really, with the stability and the affordability.
Absolutely.
You know, good subscription to have, you know, good peace of mind.
And
really,
that's
more
what
than
it is.
anything
Look,
else.
I think I had this conversation with friends recently. I'm like, you know, what's the greatest thing you're looking at? Everybody's chasing happiness in the world, right? And the one thing I'll say, yeah, that's fine, but happiness inside of you. But the reality is everybody wants a bit peace in their life. Peace brings happiness. People are chasing happiness, but the reality is we want peace. And for you to have peace of mind, that you don't need to worry about your pests, you need to worry about that.
That's right.
That's gold, ladies and gentlemen. That is
true.
gold.
You know, you've got so many other things to contend with, to deal with, to take care of. You know, having that one thing ticked off the list, and one less thing, just one less thing to worry about, and it's great because you got pros, you got experts in your corner, and you got them on speed dial. I mean, you can't beat it. So if anything does flare up, it's as simple as a phone call or a text. Hey, I saw this. What do you think? Should I be concerned? Oh yeah, you know what? Nothing to be concerned about. That we've seen a few of them. We're keeping an eye on it. We're monitoring the situation. Or hey, you shouldn't have those. Let's set an appointment so we can get in there and see why you have them, and most importantly, make sure they don't come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, as always, this has been great. I'm glad that we decided to jump on. I think this is a very, very important topic to bring up, especially with the disaster that we've had recently. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know someone who is in the midst of this disaster, then, you know, do whatever you can to help them. We're certainly trying to do our part as well. Our hearts go out to everybody in Los Angeles who are suffering because of this disaster. We take this, we don't make this easy. We take this on board, and our prayers and everything are with you all. And just be aware that this is just the beginning. There's a lot more from this. People are going to rebuild their lives, and there are going to be displacement of wildlife and pests and things. We need to be aware of that as well. Not being flippant about that, but certainly take care of yourselves. And if you've got any questions about any type of pest control, you want us to answer it either on our episodes, or you just want to connect with us as a team and you've got something you need to get off your chest and ask, that's what we're here for. Give us a call. It's firstresponsepc.com, and we are there to serve you guys, whether you're a homeowner or whether you are a business owner. That's what we're about. So
we're here for you.
God bless, guys. We shall see you on the next one. Take it easy.